So the trade that everybody said was going to happen, and somehow at the same time everybody said was not going to happen, has actually happened, with James Harden going to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond. And I believe that's it. Now here's the thing to me. I think Philly loses this trade because, and this is something common that it happened a lot with trades today. Like you saw a trade from the Celtics to the Rockets earlier, sending Enes Freedom, or Enes Kanter, if you know him like that, Bruno Fernando, and Dennis Schroeder to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Daniel Tice. These 3 players for 1 trades that seem a little out of the ordinary to me, but at the same time, I at least I understand what Philly is doing. I don't necessarily understand what Boston's doing, trading 3 guys for Daniel Tice, especially, whatever. That's just my thought. But for Philly, not only do you give up 3 players, you give up one of the best rebounders in the NBA, still, in Andre Drummond, and you fill a need for Brooklyn at that 5 position. Not only that, you fill a shooter position with Seth Curry as a backup. He probably will start, honestly. And you give up Ben Simmons, who, if you know who I am, I think Ben Simmons has a chance to be still one of the best players in the NBA, with or without a jump shot. You give all that up for a guy in James Harden who has never proved to be an effective player deep in the playoffs. I'm not saying that he's never shown good flashes in the playoffs. I'm just saying when it gets to the end, it looks ugly for James Harden-led teams. And it's looked ugly for Brooklyn this whole entire season when it's basically just been James Harden in Brooklyn. I don't necessarily know off the top of my head what the record is for the Brooklyn Nets when it's just James Harden playing compared to playing with either Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant or both at the same time. But I would just go ahead and assume that they have one of the worst records in the NBA when it's just James Harden on the floor. So for Philly, what is your depth look like at this point? Well, you have a really weird lineup. And you already had a really weird lineup before you got James Harden when you still had Ben Simmons. You have probably James Harden running the point, probably Tyrese Maxey as an off-ball player, which probably is going to hurt his development considering how well he was playing as a lead guard in this system. Tobias Harris, who is basically a 6'9" shooting guard. You have Joel Embiid, who's probably the biggest guy in the NBA, which that's not a knock on him. That just adds to how effective he is. You got names like Danny Green, Furkan Korkmaz, and really, I can't think of anyone else who is on this team. So really, you have a 6, maybe 7-man rotation. And 2 of those guys with Joel Embiid and James Harden have proved that deep runs in the playoffs are not necessarily sustainable. And for the Brooklyn Nets, you helped them out more than you helped yourselves out. So for Philly, I don't necessarily understand the trade. I didn't understand the trade before it happened. I still, looking back, would have honestly, I'd rather have Kyrie Irving because you probably wouldn't have had to give up Seth Curry. You maybe even could have done a Ben Simmons for Kyrie Irving trade straight up. That's just my opinion. Now, with all that being said, do the Philadelphia 76ers improve their odds at making an NBA Finals run with James Harden? I'd say so. Because not only do you have probably, when you compare Joel Embiid in the realm of unguardable superstars, let's put him in that realm. You have names of Joel Embiid, you have Nikola Jokic, you have Giannis in Milwaukee, and I would say, on some nights, Steph Curry and LeBron James are also in that realm. Luka is in that realm as well. There's 6 to 7 guys right now in the NBA that they're unguardable. You can't do anything to them. And Joel Embiid is one of those guys. I would say James Harden at one point in his career was that guy. He's probably not that guy anymore, but he's still an all-star player. They still don't have enough, which is odd to say because statistically they have 2 of the best players in the NBA, 2 of the best players in NBA history when you compare them to other guys. Compare Joel Embiid's numbers last year to any Hall of Fame center. He had better numbers last year than almost any of them. And you compare James Harden in his prime to any other player in NBA history, whether it's Oscar Robertson when he was getting all his triple-doubles, whether it's Russell Westbrook in the past few years getting all his triple-doubles. Statistically, James Harden has been one of the best players in NBA history. And you pair him with, like I just said, another guy statistically who has been great in Joel Embiid. They still don't have enough. When you compare what they have in Philly to what they have in Milwaukee now, even what they have in Brooklyn now, if Ben Simmons ends up elevating his play to be the fourth banana on a team that features Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Seth Curry now, Andre Drummond, LaMarcus Aldridge, they still have Blake Griffin, they still have Bruce Brown, they still have Cam Thomas, which is really surprising that Philly didn't try to get Cam Thomas, and Nicholas Claxton. Brooklyn just turned into a team that was maybe 6 or 7 guys deep to a team that goes maybe 8 or 9 deep now. You compare them now also to the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are deeper than Philly. Milwaukee is obviously deeper. I would go as far as to say teams that aren't even in the playoffs right now, like the Atlanta Hawks. I would say the Atlanta Hawks are a deeper team than the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, is the duo of Trae Young and John Collins close to what the duo of James Harden and Joel Embiid is? No, obviously not. I will admit that. But combined star power doesn't mean as much in the NBA as it did 5 to 8 years ago. When you had teams of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, it was obvious that no matter how bad their depth was, they were going to win. It's really only been since the Golden State Warriors have been in their real, run of championships. They prove that depth pretty much means everything right now in the NBA. If you have 8 to 9 guys deep, if you have a bench that consists of guys of Andre Iguodala, back then when they were making their runs, Sean Livingston, Maurice Spates, Festus Ezeli, they had depth that no other team can match. That's why teams that were top-loaded, like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who met them every single year in the finals, had no fucking chance of beating them. And that's just the facts. So with it all being said, does Philly improve their odds at winning the championship? Maybe. Maybe. Because what we still have to see is James Harden and Joel Embiid make the whole, not just the rest of the regular season, but they have to get through the playoffs healthy. They have to get through the playoffs well-conditioned. They have to get to the playoffs fully. They have to play every single game in the playoffs. Neither of them can miss a game, because Philly, if either one of them misses a game, especially if Embiid misses a game, they will lose that game, and it could be a game that sways a series to the other team that they're playing. So, yes, maybe they do improve their championship odds with James Harden, but man, this was not the trade that Philadelphia needed to make, and I think it's going to be one that really comes back to haunt them. If Ben Simmons ends up developing into something great in Brooklyn, if Seth Curry and Andre Drummond keep playing incredibly as role players in Brooklyn, then Brooklyn's going to win a championship this year, because they just got incredible depth for a guy who is past his MVP days, but is still in an all-star caliber range. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Sixers fans, but this was not a good trade for you.